All right, let's jump right in. Today we're diving into a truly timeless katha. Now, a katha is basically a traditional ancient fable, and this one explores a fascinating question. Can true love actually withstand the cruelest tests of destiny? We're looking at a story that has literally echoed through the corridors of time for thousands of years. And you know, it's not just another mythological tale about gods throwing lightning bolts or fighting demons. Instead, it's a deeply moving, relatable narrative about two ordinary humans whose love becomes completely extraordinary when it's pushed to the absolute limit by the forces of fate itself.
So can love triumph when the cosmos is actively working against it? This profound question is at the very heart of our Explainer today. It perfectly sets the stage for a story packed with immense passion, heartbreaking sacrifice, and literal cosmic forces. As we unpack this narrative, I really want you to keep this central tension in the back of your mind. How exactly does human agency push back when the universe seemingly decides to just completely stack the deck against you?
Let's start right at the beginning. Part 1, Two Extraordinary Souls. We kick things off in ancient India, where these two exceptional individuals were born into immense privilege. But with that came the incredibly heavy weight of royal responsibility. What's really striking here is the contrast, and yet the perfect balance between these two figures. So you have King Nala of Nishada. He was a just ruler, a highly skilled warrior, but the ancient texts specifically highlight this distinct spiritual magnetism he had. It was this outward grace that just naturally drew people to him. On the flip side, we have Princess Damayanti. She possessed a profound inner radiance that perfectly matched her incomparable physical beauty. She was highly educated in the scriptures, with a mind that could grasp the deepest, most complex philosophical truths. And here is the wildest part. Because kingdoms back then were really only connected through traveling merchants and stories, these two actually fell in love through mere rumors of each other's extraordinary qualities, long before they ever even met face to face.
Moving right along to Part 2, Swayamvara and Divine Blessing.
To understand how they finally crossed paths and brought those rumors to life, we really have to look at the strict traditions of royal alliances at the time. Usually, the law of the land dictated that royal marriages were purely strategic, arranged by parents for political gain. However, Damayanti's father decided to organize a Swayamvara. If you don't know, this was a sacred ceremony that gave her the incredibly rare agency to actually choose her own husband from an assembly of the realm's absolute greatest kings and princes. Hearing about this, Nala faced an impossible situation, right? He was bound by strict duty to his own kingdom, but his heart was completely pulling him toward her. So, when the big day finally arrived, Nala attended. But he didn't sit proudly on some elevated throne showing off all his wealth. Instead, he arrived as a humble seeker, just quietly mingling with the crowd.
Okay, so picture this. The ceremony is starting, and then, plot twist, heaven itself decides to intervene. 4 unbelievably powerful celestial beings, the gods Indra, Agni, Yama, and Varuna, literally descend into this earthly assembly. They stand right before Damayanti in these dazzling, absolutely perfect celestial forms, and they fully expect that she, like literally any other mortal would be, is going to be completely overwhelmed by their divine presence and just pick one of them. They are effectively testing her with the ultimate temptation, divine immortality.
And this moment, it so brilliantly illustrates Damayanti's incredible wisdom and her absolute agency. She isn't blinded by the divine spectacle for a second. Instead, she bows respectfully to the gods, honors them, and utters this incredibly powerful sentiment. She respectfully rejects them. She acknowledges their absolute perfection, but firmly states that she is looking for a human husband, someone who faces the exact same trials of mortality that she does. She actively chooses her mortal equal. Defying literally all earthly probability and the super rigid expectations of tradition, she walks straight up to Nala in the crowd. Without a single moment of hesitation, she places the ceremonial garland right around his neck. And the gods, well, far from being angered, they are profoundly impressed by her virtue and her wisdom. They grant her a boon, promising they won't interfere, and they officially bless this destined union. So, with the literal blessing of the heavens, their legendary love story officially begins. And for a time, they live in this state of blissful harmony.
Which brings us to Part 3, the game and the curse.
But, as you might have guessed, that blissful harmony was about to be completely shattered by an inescapable law of the universe. In this ancient worldview, karma is absolute. It is totally unforgiving. Even the most virtuous lives can be shadowed by past reckonings. And in this case, A reckless incident from the past triggers a truly devastating curse upon Nala. And just waiting in the wings to exploit this vulnerability was Nala's own younger brother, Pushkara. He was a man entirely consumed by toxic jealousy and resentment over Nala's kingdom, the respect he commanded, and perhaps most of all, Damayanti's love.
Through a catastrophic, high-stakes game of dice driven by Pushkara, Nala's total downfall is set into motion. Because of the curse, Nala, who, by the way, wasn't even a skilled gambler to begin with, was absolutely guaranteed to lose. And his fall from grace? It wasn't some slow, gradual decline. It was incredibly sudden, and it was complete. With every single throw of the dice over those few days, he wagered and lost everything. First his wealth, then his palaces, then his armies, and finally his very kingdom. He went from being the most powerful king in the realm to an utterly powerless beggar in a flash.
But losing his kingdom wasn't even the end of it. The sheer cruelty of his fate was entirely physical too. This beautiful, noble king, known for his impeccable grace, was suddenly transformed by the curse into a short, distorted, almost totally unrecognizable figure. He was brutally stripped of the very physical presence that once commanded such absolute respect from literally everyone around him.
This leads us right into Part 4, Wandering in the Shadows.
Watching the man she loved lose his kingdom, and his very identity just completely shattered Damayanti's world. This beautiful life they had built together was dismantled piece by piece, and what followed were years of unimaginable solitary suffering. Unable to bear the thought of Damayanti looking at his degraded, cursed state with pity, Nala's immense pride becomes his ultimate torment. It's a very relatable, almost modern kind of ego trap, right? Consumed by shame, he actually abandons her in the middle of the night, leaving behind nothing but a note. Damayanti, now totally stripped of her royal status, refuses to curse or blame him. Instead, she sends their children away for their own safety, and just wanders the dense forests completely alone, desperately searching for him. Meanwhile, Nala, burdened with a clouded, cursed mind, stumbles aimlessly through the world, never finding a moment of peace.
Eventually, Nala winds up serving as a lowly charioteer in the court of King Rituparna. He's living completely in secret, his true identity perfectly hidden behind his deformed exterior. Now, despite living in this severely degraded position, his inherent virtue and his skills were still super evident to everyone around him. Yet internally, he was living with the constant, agonizing pain of separation from his beloved Damayanti. He never even knew if she still remembered him, or if she had just given up hope entirely.
Now for Part 5, Recognizing the True Soul.
After years, literally years, of agonizing separation, wandering through countless dangerous forests and remote villages, a miraculous moment of divine grace and sheer unwavering determination finally brings Damayanti to King Rituparna's court. When she finally tracks him down, she finds herself standing before this misshapen, completely unrecognizable creature who claims to be her long-lost husband. And right here she faces the ultimate philosophical test of her devotion. In that very human, very real moment of initial doubt, the central question of our whole explainer comes rushing back. Could she love him now like this? Could her love truly transcend the physical form?
This is a massive, profound turning point in the Katha. The truth finally broke right through the illusion. It was not her eyes that recognized the cursed, deformed man standing before her. It was her soul recognizing his soul. And the ancient texts tell us that in the exact moment of that pure, soulful recognition, the cosmos itself literally began to shift.
And finally, Part 6, The Triumph of True Love. Whether it was just the sheer, unyielding purity of her love, or the gods actively reversing the curse in awe of their immense suffering and virtue, the heavy darkness of the curse finally broke. The transformation was absolute. Nala's physical form was completely restored to its original, handsome grace, and he quickly reclaimed his rightful throne. But you know, the real takeaway here isn't just the physical stuff. It's the spiritual restoration. Nala was no longer that proud, ego-driven king who couldn't bear to be seen in a diminished state. He returned stripped of his toxic pride, ruling his kingdom with a profound humility that he had to learn the hard way, in the shadows. And together, their love wasn't just restored to what it was exponentially deepened and purified by the intense fire of their suffering. Ultimately, the Katha of Nala and Damayanti leaves us with this incredibly powerful, echoing truth that easily transcends time. They didn't just survive a terrible curse, they were fundamentally transformed by it. They proved that love is, indeed, the absolute strongest force in the universe, way stronger than pride, stronger than curses, and for sure, stronger than fate itself.
So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to ponder today. These ancient texts, they aren't just dusty history lessons. They are mirrors reflecting our own human experience. I invite you to look beyond the surface in your own life's epic journey and ask yourself, what superficial illusions might be clouding your vision of true worth right now? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and always keep questioning what lies beneath.